Okay, my name is Kenneth. This is my first name, David Allen, A-L-L-E-N. Okay, and I'm going to be 82. I'm 81 right now. I'll be 82 in July. So.
Okay, and I guess to start out, we'd like to get an idea of how you feel about this project, what this project means to you.
I think it's an important project because it can be held for a long time, and possibly my great-grandchildren or grandchildren and so forth can look at the website or whatever it is and maybe give them a little background of what I did during the Korean War. Mm-hmm. Okay, should I keep going? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I might as well start from the beginning. I didn't really know anything about Korea. I read it in the paper. I knew that they were invaded by the Chinese, and I knew there was a lot of trouble. And I graduated in 1952 from Syracuse University and Maxwell School. And when I graduated, I had a deferment because I was in college, so I was not drafted by United States Army. So once I graduated, I received the greetings from the president, went through basic training, commuted from Syracuse, where it's my home, and was born and brought up there, and traveled to Fort Dix, New Jersey, where I took my basic training and infantry training. I just was very lucky because I organized a dance band at the time. I played trumpet, still do, and for Fort Dix in New Jersey. And we used to travel back to Syracuse every weekend and played a lot at their officers' club and for special events there because our company was primarily college graduates at the time. We were all had our orders. My orders were to go to Korea. So after about a week at home, I had a plane to Seattle, Washington. And after a week or so of the indoctrination there, we got in a ship, headed directly to Korea. We stopped to provision outside of Japan and ended up in Busan, where we were put on a train, like a boxcar train. Didn't even have a good bathroom on the train, and took the train north, which took about, probably a half a day, because it didn't go very fast. But on the train, we had to be very careful. We put up wire on the windows so they couldn't throw hand grenades and stuff through the windows. And the second and sad part about it was the poor little kids that come by the train when the train stopped to ask for food or clothes or anything, and we gave whatever we had to them. But that was the shaking part of it, of Korea to me. When I arrived in Yeongdeungpo, got off the train, was escorted through Seoul, Korea, and there was nothing standing in Seoul except the presidential palace, which was an empty building. It was all bombed out, and I understood they went through Seoul frontwards and backwards. This was in January 1953. Really, we didn't. We didn't realize just what was happening. Of course, China was an ally of the United States, during the Second World War with the Japanese and so forth. And, of course, we had no love for the Japanese then either, And this was soon right after the war, In fact, a lot of when I was in college, guys came back from the war, from the Far East. So I really didn't know much of anything about Korea. Right.
And when you found out you were going over there, what were your impressions?
Well, I had to.
You just kind of followed your orders.
I just followed my orders and did what I was told. I was lucky because that was very limited time on the line, because they were looking for somebody that could read and write and use a typewriter. In those days, there was the old Hunt and Peck typewriter. There was nothing electric then, really. And somebody that had some sort of business training, which I did do because I worked at Summers, in the business end of it. And it was interesting because our whole group there was all educated one was an English major. He's retired and just died a year ago as the principal of a high school down in New Jersey. And two or three other ones that I still correspond with all had college training in one way or the other, you know.
That's interesting because it seems like a lot of soldiers that went over there didn't have, I mean, as you said, you know, they're looking for maybe, like, you know, people that had that experience. How did they divide that up when you went over there?
Yeah, it was kind of tough because I know I was asked to interview 150 Puerto Ricans and I couldn't speak Spanish. So I had to find out one guy out of the Spanish group that could speak partially English. And my job was then to allocate these Puerto Rican kids, guys, we were just kids then, to the various units that was up on the line in Korea. At the time, it was I would say we're 50 miles north of the 38th parallel, and we had them stop cold there. Right.
What was your rank when you entered the war?
I went on. It was private. It was
Okay.
private. Yeah.
Great.
And I came out as a staff sergeant. I was promoted to sergeant first class, and when I told them I had no interest in continuing in the Army anymore, they canceled that, which I didn't care.
Yeah.
I didn't care. I just wanted out. I wanted to go back.
And when you were leaving for Korea, what was your family's reaction?
Well,
It
they.
seemed like, you know, from the time that you enlisted to when you left was pretty.
Yeah, when I left on a boat, I was. I knew I either had to work down in the cafeteria or the hull of the ship, or volunteer as ship's editor, which I did do. And I was ship's editor going over and coming back. I came back with the 1st Marine Division. I was ship's editor coming back too, which meant every night we would put a newspaper out. We'd give them ball scores. We'd give them up-to-date things about Korea, about the various things. I also organized on both coming and going a band. We'd entertain the troops. Every night we'd have a little show for them, and it gave them something to think about other than just worrying. Going up was bad. We went up through the Aleutians, very rough sea, and the boat was really going. So a lot of sick guys then. Yeah. So made it a little better for the troops there. They enjoyed it every night.
So was there, you know, when you were taking the ship over there, was there this kind of anxiety that there's this impending war? You know, because a lot of people haven't experienced any of that before. So
Right. We really didn't know what we were getting into.
Yeah.
And in fact, we were pretty well for provisions. Outside of Japan, we never got off the ship. We were provisioned on the ship, and the next morning we were in the Busan harbor. And luckily, they had a plank that we could go down. I carried my trumpet with me the whole time. And I played when I was in Korea. I used to do all sorts of playing at night for the guys for something to do. I played with the University Marching Band for 4 years with Dottie Grover's time. So.
But I think that's something that, you know, isn't really talked about that much. It's, you know, a personal possession, but it's something to keep people's mind off of what's going on. You know, it must have been so chaotic and crazy over there that, you know, the soldiers needed something to.
Yeah, they used to break it up. They had the USO in there. In fact, Marilyn Monroe was there, and I went to her show. I didn't play in their band, but because they had a regular Army band played there. But she came in with a helicopter, and they couldn't land a helicopter. There were so many guys milling around, so they had to take her out with a Sherman tank. And they put her in the tank and finally got her out of there. She would have been mobbed. These guys were up in a line. They were going wild. Yeah. It was a fun time, but a sad time too. You know, I felt very sorry for the Korean people and the efforts they put in. We used to do whatever we could for them. I was telling her we had a houseboy where we're in. In fact, that picture of me shows the tent that I slept in for over a year, and we had oil heat. So in the middle of the wintertime, it was kind of cold in Korea. Same temperature as it is here in New York State, and same parallel, in fact.
Yeah.
The 38th parallel goes through New York State too. So he would OG would come in and, you know, we'd give him food and clothes, and we'd pay for him, and what we could get out of our mess hall, we'd give to him, to give to the people. Yeah.
What was that like, the interaction between the Americans and the Koreans?
They were pretty cordial, except for one guy who was haircutting, and I was kind of bucking him, you know, he cut it all off or something like that, and he chased me with a razor down the street, you know, and I said, "Don't fool with me, guy." So, because we had usually traveled three or four guys together, you know, just in case there was somebody that we didn't really want to do. But for the most part, the Korean people were really thankful people.
Did you get an impression that they fully understood what was going on, why the military was there?
Yeah, I think they did, because they were invaded pretty much the whole country. I mean, they were infiltrated a lot with the North Koreans. And the Chinese really got into it a little bit later than the first part, you know. But that was strictly political.
Yeah.
It was a political war. It ended up a political war.
Yeah. So, explain that a little bit.
Well, you got guys that run certain countries that want to take advantage of the country or the natural resources or the economic upturn of these countries, and the only way they knew how to do it is war, you know, and to kill it and take it over, you know.
Yeah.
That they didn't understand that once you do it, like the United States take somebody over, they reconstruct it, they rebuild their country, and they rebuild the economy the democratic way. They don't understand that, you know, in the totalitarian way.
Do you think that's one of the main differences between North and South Korea then today?
Well, there's no difference. They're the same as U.S.
Yeah. But I'm saying, you know, the United States intervention within South Korea versus
North Korea?
Chinese,
Yeah, that's the main difference, absolutely. So, and until they let the people run the country and elect the people that do the job for them, their country is not going to succeed, you know. And I think they've learned that lesson. Yeah. In fact, we're learning a lesson right now in this country. Yeah, I met the Turkish troops coming back when I came back from school. They were leaving. Highly disciplined troops. They didn't get out of line at all. And took a picture. It was a picture of some Canadian troops that I ran into too. Surprising, you know, guys that you even went to high school with. All of a sudden, you see them coming back from Korea, and they say, "What are you doing here?" Yeah. And I said, "I went to the same thing. They were coming back, master sergeants." He said, "Either we got killed or we got promoted, one or the other, you know." Yeah. And when I got back to Syracuse, I ran into 2 or 3 guys. He said, "Oh, we saw you in Korea."
Yeah. So what's that like, being with, you know, your buddies that you knew for so long, and you know, you have all these experiences?
Yeah.
You must be able to share a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah, we do. It was a good and bad thing, you know. I learned a lesson that I didn't know about, even though I went and studied that sort of thing, you know. And of course, we were brought up World War II, Germany and Japan, you know, strife and that sort of thing. Yeah, so I don't know what else I can tell you. When I come back, they flew me back from the Marine barracks in California, Treasure Island, and threw me back through it was Texas, through Texas, and I landed back in New Jersey. And they said, "Well, see, you're the senior sergeant. You have to paint these 3 buildings." So I said, "Give me 5 gallons of paint," which I do, and 5 paintbrushes. I picked up 5 guys. I gave them each one a paintbrush and the paint, and said, "I'm leaving." My wife drove down from Syracuse, picked me up, and I never went back again to anything. No reserve, no nothing.
How soon after that? How soon was that after you got back?
Within a week.
Oh, yeah. Weekend. You're completely done. You're just
completely done. Yeah. All I knew, I was in some reserve group out of Long Island, because I went as a insurance training in New York City, and all of a sudden I get a honorable discharge in the mail, right? Yeah, I got 2 battle stars. I know I was in, we had a big one in January and a real big one in July.
Battles.
Battles, oh yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, well,
talk about a little
see,
bit?
as even though you're in administration, you're still a basic infantryman. And the First Marine Division got hit by 2 divisions of what you call it, of Chinese, and went through close to their 3rd line of resistance. See, they had 3 lines, and it was barbed wire between each line of resistance. And if you get past your 3rd line, you're into their headquarters. So they pulled back off our left flank, because our boys were up at the left flank, and they said, okay, that's it, grab your rifle. We got to shore up the Marine Corps. So I accused the Marines of running, they don't like that, but
Yeah, I wonder how they would respond.
they don't like that very much. And they said, no, well, you know what happened? I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure that you got overrun. But
That's
you
funny
left.
because the Marine Corps guys who come here say it was them who saved the war. So
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
like to
yeah.
have both of you guys.
That ain't
sit
the way
next
it
to each other.
worked. So anyways, I said, well, you left our left flank exposed, which means they could have come in there and then taken us. That was right up Baldy and Heart Rate, Brig Ridge and stuff. But, so eventually we stopped them, and that was the end of the war.
You think that was the hardest part for you?
Yeah, well, it told me that even though I had a sort of a plush job compared with some of the other guys sleeping in a hole up there, we were at least in a tent.
Yeah.
There's still, you're still basically an infantryman. Sure.
Well, I mean, that must have some, cause some anxiety because you don't really know what's going to happen. One day you're in the tent, the next day you're on the line. You don't.
That's right.
So how is that kind of adjusted? Keeping yourself sane.
Well,
and
you
calm?
train because being a sergeant, of course, I was in charge. We had to patrol our compound and make sure nobody come in and would take some of this top secret stuff that we were doing. And so we had guards every night, and I was up sometime all night with that, making sure the guys didn't go to sleep or whatever, So that was still soldiering, right? Even though he had a lot of fun, he was still a lot of soldiering.
Yeah. I guess the happiest moment of the war.
Yeah, coming back.
I knew you were going to say that.
Coming back. And now the association I have with the Korean community, which never expected, and never thought that they would grow to the extent that they have, not only here locally, but all over the United States.
Could you talk a little bit about your relationship with the Korean community here?
Yes, of course, being a graduate of Maxwell School, and I talked to Yamu on this thing, and I've been to their honoring things. I usually do all the trumpet work at all the cemeteries, and I do a lot of funerals around still. And now I was 7 years or 8 years with the state of New York, Department of New York, as secretary. So I used to set up the conventions and all the association with the different Korean factions that would come to our conventions all over the state of New York. And that was a good experience for me, setting up not only the food, but also the accommodations for them and the contact with them. I had a call from Washington, D.C., from the consulate of one of our guys' remains that they found up there, and he was from Liverpool, New York, and I helped arrange that with young Rue to have dinner with their families and the proper burial for him, and he's buried with his mother and father in North Syracuse, right? So little things like that brings it all back,
So what does that mean to you, being able to maintain that relationship?
Well, I'm glad I lived long enough to be able to do these things, and still trying to hang in there, so to say, to continue, Okay.
All right, so you talked about coming home. You met your wife after you got back, or
We were married before.
so how was
Before I left.
that?
She
Talk
graduated.
about your letters that.
Yeah. Well, she graduated from nursing school with a degree in RN, and later on got her bachelor's degree in nursing too, and worked as a surgical nurse in Cross Urban Hospital here. And when I got back, she had everything set up. We had an apartment, we had a car, and a TV set. And what else do you need?
Like, this is great.
That's right. That's right. So.
What was it like being separated from her during the time that you were gone?
It wasn't bad because she was busy. Frankly, she wasn't supposed to get married, or would have been kicked out of nursing school. So it was sort of a QT. I don't think they're that strict now, but this is
definitely not. Maybe nursing school.
Yeah, yeah. So this is what happened. We had to keep it quiet, and all of a sudden the year's gone, and it was all over. Yeah.
And how do you think you coming home affected her? And how was your separation? How did that affect her? And then how was your family life affected upon coming back? You said she was really busy, so. Yeah, she was busy, and even after we moved to New York City, and she worked down in Long Island in a hospital down there, and I was in a training program with an insurance company, and then we were both transferred back. I was transferred back here to Syracuse, so we just came back and had our family. Now we had 3 kids, and we got 5 grandchildren now. And they run everywhere from 22 down to, I think, 12 years old now. So we're busy keeping up with them, too. Yeah. That's great. And do you have an opportunity to share your experiences with them?
Off and on, every once in a while. They would ask me about, certain phases of the thing.
Well, I think that's really important because, just talking to some other veterans, they say a lot of people don't know much about the war, but as the generations pass, it seems like younger generations are more interested in what happened, whereas previous generations were kind of sick of talking about it and didn't really want to know about it.
Yeah. Of course, we were kids during the Second World War, and we played war all the time. When up at my grandfather's camp, I had two friends of mine, and we used to go and play war and play shooting, and we had 22s. And we learned how to shoot when we were probably 10, 11 years old, and we would play war games then, and that was a game, but it wasn't real the way we found out.
So, do you think it's important that these young kids know about?
Sure is.
History? Yeah.
Sure is. Yeah, because history can repeat itself sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, it's important that we know about our own history.
I know.
So, what do you think? I guess what has impacted you the most by serving in the war?
Well, it helped me grow up a bit, and look at things a little more objectively. I was young, even as a college graduate. I was young and had a lot to learn, and so it matured me a little.
So, what did you learn?
Huh?
What did you learn?
I learned to look after myself and my family,
yeah.
and to teach them the good and bad things of life. It's still going on.
So those are, I guess, the new perspectives that you have towards life.
Right.
The discipline and the responsibility, right?
Right. Yeah. The legacy. Well, we're getting old, number one, and we're losing a lot of our friends. And they were friends. Even though we weren't in the same units, we were in the same place. And every once in a while we'll have a certain story. Well, I didn't know you were there, or I was there, and so forth. And we didn't even know. And in fact, a good friend of mine was refilling a gun emplacement, and the Chinese, he was taking the shells out of a truck, and he went to the gun emplacement and put the shells there. He turned around, and a Chinese shell hit the truck, blew it to smithereens, and with the ammunition that was left in the truck, killed everybody in the truck. If it was 2 minutes before that, he would have been killed. And as it was, all he had was some shrapnel wound on his leg, and still goes to the VA hospital for it and the thing. So, And we still are good friends.
Mhm.
We work together a lot. He does a lot with me, and I do a lot with him. And of course, I don't go to the VA hospital, but he does. So, because I had my own business and ran my own business and sold it, right, and retired. So I've been retired for almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you, have you ever had a chance to interact with younger soldiers?
Yeah, yeah, we do with Camp Drum. I do a lot of funerals with them, that they come down from Camp Drum, and we talk. We have a place at Hancock Airport, for them when they're going to be dispersed to Afghanistan or whatever, and it's completely equipped with chaise lounges, TV sets, computer, and the whole thing, because these kids are at the airport and they're kept there before they're dispersed to go to Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever, So we help finance that and contributions. And we took the old baggage room at Hancock Airport and redone it into a holding area or reception area, rather than have these guys run all over the town or something like that.
So what does it mean to you that you're able to help them out and interact with them?
I think it's an important thing. It really is. And these kids are my grandkids' age, and God forbid, I hope they don't get involved in this thing, but because now there's no draft system, there's just a
So why is it important to give them more support, or
to show them that somebody cares, that we care about them, we care what they're doing, and we support them in any way that we can. Right.
do you think people didn't care that much about the Korean War veterans coming home?
I don't think they did. I don't think they did at the time.
Why?
Well, I never remember anything like this. No send-offs, no nothing. In fact, when I got back from Korea, they said, "Well, you're not eligible to join the VFW because Korean wasn't declared a war."
Technically a war, right?
So I have never joined the VFW because of that. I belong to the American Legion and the Korean War Veterans Groups. Right?
So, what was that like? Listening to these people, and you go through this experience. And
Well, these were probably World War II guys.
Yeah.
We were in a big one.
Yeah.
They probably spent all their time in someplace cooking or something. So I don't know. But so I don't know what else more I can tell you.
Well, I guess regarding this technical declaration of the war, Norm was telling me about in 2003 or 2004 when Bill Clinton, after he was out of the presidency, he acknowledged the fact, yes, this was a war, and I guess Norm was, he was happy, he was proud because the veterans were finally being recognized.
Mm-hmm.
Did you remember when Bill Clinton said that?
Yeah.
If you could.
Yeah.
Did the same feeling? Do you have the same emotions?
Yeah, I don't think so. Of course, now it's mainly politics, and we're getting involved in things right now that we shouldn't be getting involved in, and it's no good because we're taking sides,
So let's dig into that a little bit. What kind of things should we not be getting involved in?
Well, we shouldn't be getting involved in taking over these countries or bombing these countries that we're doing now, because we don't know the situation in the countries, and it's just a political thing, and it's costing us a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of lives unnecessarily. If we're going to war, go to the war and get it over with, not play games like they are now. I don't think it's right. All right.
So, last question.
Yeah.
What message can you tell me and us and future generations of people that are gonna do research on the Korean War and see your interview? What could you tell us? Just a last message about your experience or the war or anything.
Well, I think to be their own person and to get involved as much as they can with not only the political process, but, the economic process in their own communities. And if there are where this is threatened or is trouble, then support whoever it is. There's too many political people making decisions without proper discussion with military and with the general public, whether they're going to get supported or not. And all of a sudden you're in, and the money's spent, and this is what we're paying for now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So kids should keep that in mind.
Yeah.
When they're the
Keep
decision
at it.
makers, they should keep that in mind.
Keep at it. And so,
Well,
can tell you no more.
No, I think that's great. I
Okay,
appreciate
guy.
you taking the time and sitting down
Okay.
with us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, Mr. Allen, we would like to present you with this medal on behalf of the Korean government. Oops, I have this backwards. From the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs and the Korean Veterans Association.
Isn't that nice?
From the Republic of Korea, we have this medal.
Isn't that
I'm
beautiful?
told it says Korean War Veteran Honor.
Beautiful.
And I'd like to place this around your neck if you don't mind.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll wear it in 2 weeks when I'm in the Saratoga area.
Absolutely.
They're having a state convention there, and we'll wear it there.
All right, well, we appreciate
Thank you.
you participating in this project, and hopefully we
Thank
can
you.
do your
Thank you for
service.
the times. We'll see you, huh?